My wife walked out after 34 years of marriage, and at first I thought I'd lost everything. Living alone forced me to face a truth I'd been avoiding for decades. Somewhere between work, responsibility, and routine, I'd stopped being the man I used to be. This is the story of how losing my marriage became the wake-up call that gave me my life back. I worked as a manufacturing supervisor. 40 years in steel-toed boots. The same plant, the same parking spot, the same lunch cooler, the same crew. Every weekday started at 5:15. Alarm, coffee, shower. Same blue work shirt. Same highway. Same security guard waving me through the gate. Same machine noise waiting inside. I never questioned any of it. Routine meant responsibility. Responsibility meant love. At least, that's what I told myself. My wife packed 2 suitcases on a Tuesday morning. Not after a fight. Not after one of those screaming matches you see in movies. The coffee maker was still dripping into the pot. The morning news was on. I'd just finished tying my work boots. She zipped the second suitcase, looked at me, and quietly said, "I don't know who you are anymore." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it didn't make any sense. "What are you talking about?" She didn't answer right away. She looked around the bedroom instead, at the dresser, the wedding picture, the half-open closet, then back at me. "I've been trying to find you for years." "I've been right here." "No," she shook her head. "Your body has. You haven't." I stood there, holding my truck keys, still convinced this was one bad morning, one long conversation, one misunderstanding. "Is there somebody else?" "No." "You don't love me anymore?" She closed her eyes for a second. "I don't know when I stopped feeling married." That hit me harder than if she'd said she hated me. I took one step toward her. "So, what are we doing?" She picked up the suitcases. "I'm leaving." "For how long?" She looked at me with the saddest smile I'd ever seen. "I honestly don't know." She walked past me. At the front door, she stopped one last time. "I hope you find him." "Find who?" She looked over her shoulder. "The man who used to laugh." Then she walked outside. I watched from the living room window as she loaded both suitcases into the trunk. She sat in the driver's seat for a long time. I remember thinking, she'll change her mind. She just needs a minute. She backed out of the driveway, turned the corner, and disappeared. That was the last morning we lived in the same house. My name's Mike. I was 59 years old. Karen and I had been married for 34 years. 2 daughters, no affairs, no violence, no police, no broken furniture. If you'd asked anyone on our street, they'd have called us a solid couple. Honestly, I would have said the same thing. I guess I figured stability and happiness were pretty much the same thing. I know better now. Karen used to ask little questions, not big ones, the kind that are easy to answer without really listening. "Want to drive up to the lake Saturday?" "I'm tired." "There's an outdoor concert downtown." "Maybe next month." "We should take a week off this fall." "Let's see how work goes." Every answer sounded reasonable at the time. That's what made them dangerous, I guess. Say enough reasonable things and pretty soon you've built yourself a life that isn't reasonable at all. I just couldn't see it while I was living it. One Friday, my friend Frank called. We rented a cabin. 3 days. You coming? I looked at my calendar, already reaching for an excuse before he'd finished talking. "I've got too much going on." He laughed. "You've been busy since Clinton was president." I smiled. Maybe next year. Frank went quiet. Then he said, "You know what worries me?" "What?" "One day you're gonna wake up and next year is gonna be gone." I laughed it off, hung up, went back to answering work emails. Funny thing is, I honestly believed there'd always be another spring, another fishing trip, another weekend, another chance to become the guy I kept promising I'd be. Didn't realize I was spending my whole life waiting on a future that didn't need my permission to show up. For the first few days, I lived like nothing had happened. The alarm still went off at 5:15. I still poured coffee into the same faded travel mug. I still drove the same 23 miles to work. Nobody at the plant asked any questions. If they knew Karen had left, they were decent enough to pretend they didn't. I appreciated that. For 8 hours every day, I could still be Mike the supervisor, the guy with answers, the guy who fixed problems, the guy everybody counted on. Then I'd pull into my driveway, and that man disappeared. The first evening felt strange, not lonely, just unfinished somehow. I walked through the house still expecting to hear, "How was your day?" Nothing. The television stayed off. The kitchen lights seemed brighter than usual. I opened the refrigerator, stared inside, closed it again, opened it a second time, like something might have changed in the last 10 seconds. It hadn't. I decided to cook. Karen would have laughed if she'd seen me. I found chicken in the freezer, a bag of frozen vegetables, a bottle of barbecue sauce. How hard could it be? Turns out, harder than I thought. 10 minutes later, the smoke detector was screaming. Every window in the kitchen was open. I stood on a chair, waving a dish towel at the ceiling. When the alarm finally stopped, I looked at the black piece of chicken in the frying pan. Then I started laughing. Really laughing. First real laugh I'd had in weeks. Because Karen used to tease me. "If I ever leave you alone, you'll either starve or burn the house down." Turns out, she wasn't far off. That week, I ate cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row. Not because I liked cereal, because it didn't ask anything of me. Saturday morning, I went grocery shopping. I'd been in that store hundreds of times, usually pushing the cart while Karen crossed things off her list. This time, I walked in alone, picked up a cart, stopped 5 feet inside the door. I honestly had no idea what one man buys for a week. I wandered the aisles for almost an hour. Frozen pizza, milk, coffee, bread, eggs, 6 bananas. Why 6? Couldn't tell ya. Guess that's just how they come. By Thursday, the bananas were brown. The milk had gone bad. Half the bread was stale. I threw it all in the trash, then just stood there looking into the garbage can. And it hit me. I knew how to run a factory. Could solve production problems worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I didn't know how to shop for one person. Wasn't embarrassing exactly. It was unsettling. Made me wonder how much of my own life somebody else had been quietly carrying. The bedroom was worse. Karen's reading lamp was still on her nightstand. A paperback lay open with the bookmark halfway through. Her slippers were tucked neatly beside the bed. She'd taken what she needed, but she'd left enough behind to make the room feel like she still lived there. For almost a month, I never touched any of it. Every night I'd think, she'll probably come back for those. She never did.
At first, I blamed her. I'd stand in the shower running that Tuesday morning back through my head. 34 years together, and this is how it ends? Then I'd hear her voice again. I've been trying to find you for years. I'd answer out loud. I was right there. But the longer I lived alone, the less sure of that I got. Maybe I had been there, physically. Maybe that just wasn't what she meant. One rainy Sunday, I went looking for an umbrella in the hall closet. Instead, I found an old cardboard box shoved behind the winter coats. Family photographs. Real ones. The kind you hold in your hand. I carried the box into the living room, made fresh coffee, started flipping through them. Disney, Christmas mornings, camping trips. The girls making snow angels. Karen with birthday cake all over her nose after one of the kids smeared it there. Then, I found one that stopped me cold. It was me.
26 years old, standing on our first apartment porch, holding my guitar, laughing so hard my eyes were almost shut. Karen had taken the picture. I remember because I remember what she said right before it. Don't move. You finally look like yourself. I turned the photograph over. In her handwriting were 4 words. Don't ever stop playing. I sat there a long time, looking from that picture to the empty chair across the room. The man in that photograph wasn't just younger. He looked curious, like he figured good things were coming. Couldn't remember the last time I looked like that. I set the picture up by the coffee maker instead of putting it back in the box. Every morning after that, while the coffee brewed, I'd look at it. And every morning, that same question got a little louder. When did I stop being that guy? A few weeks later, my younger daughter called. Sarah had a way of easing into hard conversations. Asked about work, the weather, whether I'd finally fixed the leaky faucet in the laundry room. Then she got quiet. Dad? Yeah? Can I ask you something? Go ahead. When's the last time you did something, she hesitated, because you wanted to? I smiled. I go to work every day. She laughed. No. Not because somebody expected you to. I mean because you wanted to. I leaned back in my recliner, and for some reason, I couldn't answer. She waited. No rush, no pressure. Finally, I said, I don't know. You used to. I did. You played guitar. You built birdhouses with us. You'd wake Mom up on Saturday mornings and just disappear for a drive. I smiled. Forgot about those. I don't think you forgot. Another pause. I think you stopped choosing them. That one just sat there in the room a while after she said it. Then she added, real quiet, I miss that version of you. Not, I miss Mom. Not, I miss you two together. She missed me. Or at least the man she'd known when she was a little girl. After we hung up, I left the television off. The quiet didn't feel empty anymore. Felt like it was waiting on an answer. Next morning, I stood in the kitchen holding my coffee. 26-year-old Mike smiled back at me from that old photograph. I picked it up, looked at it, set it back down, then caught myself asking out loud, what happened to you? The room, of course, didn't answer, but the question followed me around anyway. Driving to work, walking the factory floor, standing in line at the grocery store, lying awake at 2 a.m. At first, I'd spent all my energy asking, why'd Karen leave? Now another question had taken its place. Who was she talking about? The man you used to be. Funny part was, I was starting to wonder the same thing myself. One Saturday, I wandered into the garage, not because it needed cleaning, because I didn't know what else to do with myself. That garage had quietly turned into a graveyard of stuff I kept meaning to get around to. Fishing rods, camping gear, a tackle box, woodworking tools. Every single thing came with the same promise. One day, I started pulling it all out into the driveway. By lunchtime, the garage looked worse than when I'd started. I sat on an old paint bucket drinking bottled water. That's when I saw the guitar case behind a shelf. Honestly, couldn't tell you the last time I'd opened it. The latches squeaked. One string had snapped years back. Dust all over the body. I brushed it off with my sleeve. The smell of old wood hit me before I even had it in my hands. And all of a sudden, I wasn't in the garage anymore. I was 28. Karen was sitting on the porch swing. The girls were chasing lightning bugs across the yard. I was trying to play a Johnny Cash song, missing every third chord. Nobody cared. Karen laughed every time I started over. I opened my eyes. Garage was quiet again. I looked around at all of it stacked against the walls. The fishing rods hadn't gone anywhere. Nobody stole the camping gear. Karen hadn't packed up my tools. Life hadn't taken any of that away from me. I had. One overtime shift became another. One promotion became one more responsibility. One maybe next weekend turned into maybe after retirement. Then retirement got closer, and somehow I still wasn't living. The hardest part wasn't realizing I'd let my hobbies go. It was realizing I'd been treating my own life like it could just wait. Work came first, bills came first, the house came first. Everybody else came first. And every year I'd tell myself, I'll get back to me later. Later showed up. I just wasn't there when it did. I sat in that driveway close to an hour. Cars drove by. Kids rode bikes down the street. A neighbor waved. I barely noticed. First time since Karen left, I stopped asking, why'd this happen to me? And started asking, what have I been waiting on? That one was harder, because there wasn't anybody left to blame. Not Karen, not work, not the mortgage, not the kids. Somewhere along the way, I'd traded curiosity for routine without even noticing. And routine never once asked if I was happy. It just showed up every morning at 5:15, right on time. Next morning, on my way to work, I turned into a strip mall I must have driven past 1,000 times. There's a little music shop tucked between a dry cleaner and a pizza place. Never once gone in. I carried the guitar through the front door. Little bell rang overhead. Young guy behind the counter looked up. Need a repair? I nodded. I think so. He opened the case, ran his hand across the neck, looked at the broken string. This one's been sitting a while. Yeah. How long? I laughed. Honestly, couldn't tell you. He smiled. Happens more than you'd think. He put a new string on it, polished up the wood, turned each tuning peg a little at a time. Then he handed it back. Play every day. Even if it's just 10 minutes, I smiled. You make that sound easy. It isn't. But that's kind of the point. That Saturday, I carried the guitar out onto the back porch. Same porch, same chair, same view of the backyard. Only thing different was, for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting on somebody else to tell me what the day was for. I played one chord. It buzzed. Played another. Missed it completely. Started laughing. Wasn't anybody there to hear me. Maybe that helped. 20 minutes later, my fingertips were sore. Hadn't sounded good once.
Went inside smiling anyway. Not because I'd gotten any better, because I'd finally started. Monday afternoon, Frank called again. "You busy Saturday?" My mouth opened automatically. I stopped. Frank laughed. "There it is." "What?" You haven't even looked at your calendar yet." I laughed too. He was right. 40 years. My answer had been ready before the question even landed. "You coming to breakfast or not?" "I'll be there." "Good." Tired of drinking coffee with people who actually enjoy retirement. Saturday morning felt strange. No alarm clock, no rush, no list taped to the fridge. Just breakfast. Diner looked exactly the same. Same cracked vinyl booths, same waitress calling everybody honey. Same coffee that somehow tasted better than the fancy stuff. Frank slid a menu over. "You know..." "What?" "I forgot you had a sense of humor." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "You used to laugh all the time. Then, somewhere around 50, you got serious." I looked down at my coffee. He wasn't knocking me. He was remembering me. Seemed like that was happening a lot lately. A few weeks later, we finally went fishing. Neither one of us caught much.
Frank landed one bass. I didn't catch a thing. Around lunchtime, he looked over. "You okay?" I looked out across the lake. "Think I am. Don't sound too sure." I smiled, still getting used to it. "To what?" "Not having somewhere else I'm supposed to be." He nodded. "That's harder than people think." It really was. Spent so many years figuring every free hour needed a purpose. Now, sometimes just sitting quiet by a lake was enough. Life didn't suddenly get exciting. It just got honest. I learned to cook one decent spaghetti dinner, stopped burning chicken, planted tomatoes behind the garage. Most of them made it. Some Saturdays I'd get in the truck and drive without picking a destination. Saw an interesting road. I turned. Found a diner. I stopped. Wasn't trying to build some new life. Was just finally paying attention to the one I'd been ignoring. Almost a year after Karen left, I found myself sitting on a dock just before sunrise, fishing pole beside me, coffee in an old thermos. Mist drifting off the water. The kind of morning I'd promised myself for decades. Phone buzzed. Karen. I looked at her name a good long moment before I answered. "Hi." "Hi. You busy?" I smiled. "Not really. Figured you might be fishing." "I am." We talked 10 minutes. The girls, the grandkids, her sister's new place. Nothing about lawyers, nothing about regret, nothing about getting back together. Before she hung up, she said, "I'm glad you're doing okay." I looked out across the lake. So am I. After we hung up, I put the phone back in my pocket. A year earlier, I'd have spent the whole day wondering what that call meant. Did she miss me? Was she lonely? Was this the start of something? This time, I didn't go chasing any of that. I was just grateful we'd had a conversation. That surprised me more than anything. Sun finally came up over the trees. Lake turned gold. I picked my fishing rod back up, made another cast, and realized I wasn't waiting on my old life anymore. For months, I figured the worst thing that ever happened to me was watching my wife drive away. Looking back, that's not the day my life changed. The real turning point came a lot later than that. It was the morning I finally understood nobody had stolen the man I used to be. I'd just stopped making room for him. And for the first time in decades, I finally let him back in.